Hello everybody and welcome to the CEM Year 5 Non-Verbal Reasoning lesson. This is Block 3, Week 3, and for those of you who haven't virtually met me yet, I'm Carly and I'm going to be taking you through this session. So this is Week 3. We are learning to understand how to best approach and answer cubes and nets questions. And this is something that some people do find quite challenging. So we're going to have a look at, first of all, how to draw a cube. This can help you to visualize, that means see in your mind, more complex shapes and is a good way to warm up for three-dimensional non-verbal reasoning questions. So already in block 3, we have looked at different views of three-dimensional shapes. And you can see in this example here, the wording is a little bit small, so I'm just going to blow it up for you a little bit. If you're asked to show you or recognise the plan of a three-dimensional shape, you can see that is this example here on the right. That's what the shape would look like from the top down, a bird's eye view, because you would only be able to see the orientation of the shapes, that is how they are set out. You wouldn't be able to see the depth. So for example, you wouldn't be able to see that this cube here and this cube here are higher than these ones. You would just see the layout. So a plan view, that's what you would see. If you were asked to see the front elevation, you'll see there you've got 4 squares together. And that's because, actually I'm going to highlight that in a different colour. Well, let me just get rid of those. Front elevation, there we go. That's because you would see, if you were looking at it from this angle, these 4 cubes. Again, you wouldn't see the depth. You wouldn't see that this one here is behind. You would just see those 4 cubes. And then finally, the side elevation, same thing. You would see the layout of the cubes looking like this. Okay, that's not what we're doing today. I just wanted to show you what the plans in that image mean and to relate it to any three-dimensional NVR activities. And we do have some masterclasses running soon. If you look on our website, where Gemma will be taking you through various different three-dimensional non-verbal reasoning activities. So if there's any that you're not too sure of, or you're thinking, I really like this topic and I'd like to learn more, then please do book onto one of those masterclasses where we'll be looking at various different question types relating to three-dimensional non-verbal reasoning activities. So how to draw a cube. We're focusing on cubes and nets today. And being able to draw a cube can help you to visualize more complex shapes, as we've said. So first of all, you would draw the front face. Just draw a simple square. Then you would draw the same shape, the same space. In this case, it's a square because we're drawing a cube, but offset slightly behind and slightly up. You'll be doing that second cube, that's the second face, that's the green one there, about 1/4 of the way. As you can see, it just takes up about 1/4 of the space in the overlap. Then all you need to do is connect those 2 faces together, point to point, as you can see then in the next image. And that creates a cube shape. Obviously, you'll be using a ruler and it'll be nice and neat. And you have a bit of time now. Use your jotters, take a bit of time and practice drawing a cube. And also, can you then try and use those skills to draw more complex shapes? you can see in the bottom right there next to my face, we've got a three-dimensional L shape. Try and draw some more complex shapes using the same kind of skill. Pause the video while you do that and then come back and join us. Okay, so moving on to cubes and nets. So here is our cube. It's a three-dimensional shape using two-dimensional square faces. A net, as you probably know, is an unfolded version of the cube. What the cube would look like if it were unfolded and laid out flat. And there are actually 11 different nets that can make a cube. On this sheet here, you can see that the faces are color-coded. And I'm going to talk a little bit more about that in detail on the next slide, but it's because they are pairs. They will be opposite faces. So when the net is folded up to form the cube, those faces will be opposite each other. Red opposite red, blue opposite blue, green opposite green. And when we're solving cubes and nets question types, those opposite faces are really going to help us. Let's look at an example here. Now, first of all, this is it's an image of a magnetic cube set. If you can get hold of one of these, it will be really helpful to help you practice cube and net question types. Have a little Google for magnetic cube net, and it should bring it up. I think they're available on Amazon and eBay, perhaps. They've also got little whiteboards on the faces, and they come with a couple of pens so that you can draw the faces on them, and you can use it to help you practice and visualize cubes and nets question types. So here on our magnetic cube net, we have numbered the faces, and you can see again it's color coded. So purple will be opposite purple, 1 will be opposite 3. Blue will be opposite blue, that means 5 will be opposite 6. And 2 and 4, the two orange ones, will be opposite each other. So taking this as our net, these are the steps that we need to go through to solve cube and net question type. So you will be asked to identify which cube can be made from the given net. And to do this, we need to think about these steps. So first things first, eliminate the alien shapes we like to call them. And this is because sometimes a picture will be put on a face of a cube that won't actually be in the net. So if obviously straight away you can eliminate that one because that can't possibly be right because the fat face is not on the net. It can't possibly then be on the cube. So if this is our net, the magnetic one, there's no smiley face on there, so we can't have that as our option. That can't possibly be our cube. And if we look at the example on the right here, this can't possibly be our cube either because there are two faces that are numbered 3. And on our net, we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. So that wouldn't be right either. So you have to look closely at your net and the given cubes and look at the faces. So the first thing, is there anything that doesn't belong? Oh, what's happened here? There we go. Do write these steps down in your jotters so that you can remind yourself of what to do. So step 1, aliens. Get rid of them. Eliminate the aliens. Step 2, you're going to eat up the pairs. So we're now looking at those opposite faces. They are pairs. And that's why they've been numbered accordingly on our magnetic net here. So these green numbers relate to the pairs. Okay, just to help you see that there. So we've got 3 pairs of faces and they are opposite. They can never be next to each other. So in this example here, this can't be right because 5 and 6 are opposite, as we can see from our net. So they wouldn't be next to each other. Same with 1 and 3 and 2 and 4. So if you get that, you've got a net and you've got opposite pairs. If they're then next to each other on one of the cubes, then they can't possibly be the right answer. Finally, add arrows and tails. This is where we look at the direction that things are facing. So if you have numbers and shapes on your net and your cubes, they need to be facing the correct way. So you'd look at where they are on your net, how they are positioned, visualize that net being folded up to make a cube. What direction would the shapes or numbers on those faces be pointing? And so these two examples here show you a wrong and a right answer. And that's because the number 1 is facing the wrong way in the first cube. When folded up, it would be pointing at the 2. And you can see that already on the net. It's not lying flat this way. It's pointing at the 2. And finally, which orientation is the cube? Left or right? These two cubes here are not the same. Okay. So if you haven't quite finished writing that down in your jotters yet, then please do feel free to pause and just write down those points. You can write it down in your own words to help you understand it better. That's absolutely fine. And if you're struggling with this, which is perfectly normal at this stage, then try and get hold of those magnetic nets because they're really helpful. First things first, we're going to look in our 11 plus NVR practice book at pages 18 and 19. And the first thing we're asked is how many of the cubes below can be made from the net? So again, you're looking at the numbers here. And let me just show you what the opposite faces will be, just to give you a bit more of a visual. So these number pairs cannot be next to each other. And so when you're looking at how to solve the problem, use elimination to get rid of wrong answers. That's really important. Actually, I'm going to change that to red. Pedantic. Oh, where am I going? Here we go. So this one can't be right because, as you can see, we've got 2 and 4 next to each other, but they can't be because they're a pair. They should be together. So they can't possibly be right. So as you're working through activities like this, use elimination. You can cross out, or you can do it like this, the answers that are incorrect, and that will help you hopefully to limit your choices. So we've got a lot of cubes here, and you've got to say how many of those can be made from the net. But by eliminating the obviously wrong answers, then that limits your choices nicely. Same again then for the 3 questions here. You've got shapes now. Again, opposite faces. Consider which ones they will be. visualize that cube being folded up, and just pause your video now while you give that a try. Okay guys, let's go through the answers to that little section there. So for this question in the orange box, using the numbers, there were 3 cubes that could be made from the net. And they were the 2nd, 3rd and 5th cube. So hopefully that knowledge of opposite faces and elimination helped you to work those out. For the first one of the next 3, it's actually number 6, because we're just taking this section from the book. This is shape D. And the reason why we have ruled out the others, I will show you in a bit more detail on the next slide. So 7 is B and 8 is C. And actually, I'll go through it with you now before we move on to some other examples. So option A can't be, because the 8-pointed star, that's this one here, and the circle must be on opposite sides. And you can see here, they're next to each other. And they shouldn't be, because they're a pair. Option B is ruled out because if the circle was on top and the triangle was in the front, you can see the circle and the triangle on the net, then the face on the right would need to be this grey star, not this black square. And for C, the grey star and the black square must be on opposite sides. So we're left with D. It has to be D. For 7, the answer is B. That's the correct answer. It can't be A, again, because if the triangle was on the top, so triangle is here, and the black square was at the front, the face on the right would need to be the circle. Instead, it's something else. It can't be option C, because the arrow shouldn't be pointing at the circle. If you look, you can see the arrow is sideways to the circle on the net, whereas in C it's pointing at it, so it can't be C. And it's not D, because we've got an alien shape here. This black arrow does not feature on the net. Okay, so that's your alien. So for 7, we've got eliminations because of positioning and because of an alien shape. For 6, we had eliminations because of positioning and opposite faces. And number 8, this looks like it could be a little bit more complex. We've got 2 black arrows, 2 white arrows, and 2 grey arrows, all pointing in different directions. The answer is C. C is the correct cube that can be made from the net. Option A is ruled out because it's those opposite faces again. These 2 black ones should be pairs. Option B is ruled out because there are no white and black arrows on the net that point directly at each other. Okay, so can you see they're pointing at each other, but none of that happens on the net. A white arrow is pointing upwards away from a black arrow, and this arrow is going in the same direction. And option D is ruled out because, again, the 2 arrows must be on opposite sides and they are next to each other. So I hope that has helped you to have a bit of a practice at answering these question types. We're going to move on to pages 56 and 57 now, which is going to give you a further chance to develop these skills. So please pause the video here so that you can have a go. And we have done the first one already for you. Work out which of the 6 cubes can be made from the net. So we're looking at shapes. Your example answer is C, as is number 1. C can be made from the net. So as you're doing this, think about why you're choosing the correct answer, or what you think is the correct answer. Why do you think it is? Why have you chosen that? What features are you looking at? Okay, please pause your video now. Okay, well done everyone. So I'm just going to show you the answers on the screen, and then I'm going to show you the reasoning behind each one. Okay, so 1 we did together and that was C, 2 was B, 3 was D, 4 C, 5 A, 6 A, 7 A, and 8 C. So remember, you're looking at various different things. You're looking at whether there are aliens or whether their opposite faces are in the wrong place and next to each other. And you're looking at the direction that the different shapes are facing. So I'm not going to read all of these out for you, but those are the things that you're thinking about. So these are the quick answers. These are also in the back of your book for you to have a look at. Just have a read, have a look at your work and see if you can relate these answers to what you have done. Can you see, even if you haven't got it correct, can you see why it is what it is and where you made an error? Absolutely fine if we make mistakes. That's what learning is all about. So that's not a problem at all. But what we want for you is to be able to see if you have made any mistakes, where you've made those mistakes, and how to then correct them going forward. If you need a bit more time to check your answers, again, please pause the video. That's absolutely fine. So we're going to go on now to the next section. And this is page 94. Again, cubes and nets. You're going to have 8 questions to look at. Same book, page 94. And I'd like you to pause the video here and give that a go. Okay, super work, everybody. So this is page 94, section 2, cubes and nets. Again, working out which of the 6 cubes can be made from the net. Eliminating obviously wrong answers and considering the different features that we have talked about. This time I'm going to talk through why the answer is as it is as we go through. So number 1, this is D. Again, this is because it can't be A, because the spiral and the cube face with the black dot need to be opposites. Can't be B, again, we have faces that are next to each other and they should be opposites. And it's not option C because there's an alien face on it. You can see the rhombus appears twice. Number 2, it is not B because we have faces that are next to each other and should be opposites. Same with option C and D. So the wrong answers can all be eliminated for the same reason here, because there are faces that are next to each other, which should be opposite. For 3, we have A again. I will show you the answers again in more detail to check them. Option B, there's an alien shape, there's an alien face. You'll see the grey stripes. There are 2 lots of them on this cube and only 1 on the net. Option C, there are shapes that are next to each other that must be opposite, and same with option D. Number 4 was D. This is because it can't be A. The face with the ellipse is never above the top of the grey mushroom shape. You'll see on the net, it's underneath it. See, it's at the bottom of it, not the top, like in this cube. It can't be B because the black triangle should be opposite the letter E or the grey mushroom shape. And it's not C because the grey mushroom shape is facing in the wrong direction. Number 5 was B. Option A had faces next to each other that should be opposite. Option C had an alien face. And option D again had faces next to each other that should be opposite. With number 6, B had opposite faces next to each other. C did as well, as did D. So again, that's all about those opposite faces. 7 was B. And now here, options A and C are ruled out because the grey cube face and the face with the number 1 must be on opposite sides. And it wasn't D either because the handle, if you like, of this little racket shape, this is pointing in the wrong direction. It should be painting towards the cube face with the overlapping circles. Instead, you can see it's pointing away from that and towards the 1. And 8 is B. Option A, alien face. Option C, opposite faces. And option D is direction. And here are those answers in a little bit more detail for you. Again, they are in the back of your book. So you can either pause the video here to have a read or check against the answers in your book. Either is absolutely fine. So I hope that has been helpful to go through it in this way. Once you start looking at it in more detail, you'll find that you can see some of these, you start to see some of these things a bit more clearly. You have to look very closely at both the net and all the given cube options. So a summary, as you've probably noticed from going through the answers to those questions, the most frequent things that we find are alien shapes and pairs of faces. I hope you're liking the little drawings here. I'm quite liking these as well. So we have a little spaceship, it seems, to represent an alien image, and a pear, as in a pear that you eat, to represent the pairs of shapes. Pears obviously being a homophone, and the fruit pear would be spelled. So those are the 2 things that occur most often when we are looking at cube and net question types. However, points 3 and 4 can be useful to draw on as well, and especially if you get stuck. So arrows, we've got a lovely bow and arrow here. Arrows, which way are they pointing? And also particular shapes, which way are they pointing? And then are we looking at the cube in the correct orientation? Are we looking at it from the left or from the right. Well done, everyone. So your homework this week is lots and lots of questions on cubes and nets. Some different types of cubes, which we're going to have a look at together in a moment, and also completing grids to practice sequencing. If you do get stuck on any of your homework, please do ask your tutors, and we also have Homework Club, don't forget, that you can drop into on Monday and ask any questions if there's anything you want to go over that you found difficult. So we have set you some very interesting challenge questions for this week's non-verbal reasoning homework. And we've taken a few examples of each style so that we can talk you through the best approach for each kind of question. So here's one example. Questions 1 to 6 in the worksheets are a slight variation on the more normal cubes and nets that we've been looking at today. And we've given you these because we want you to be able to have the skills to solve questions like these. So here we have same example as on the previous page, but we've just color coded the faces here. So the blue would be opposite faces, the green would be opposite faces, and the red would be opposite faces as well. And you can see then we've eliminated number 1, because those shapes are next to each other and they shouldn't be. Number 2, because this black band is the wrong way in terms of where it should be. It's on the wrong side. We've eliminated D because the shape there is also facing the wrong direction, and E as well. So the answer is C. Now questions 7 to 11 are a much larger variation on the more normal cubes and nets style question. Again, we want you to be able to try and tackle these. Please don't worry though and get all stressed if you are finding it difficult. We don't want you to spend ages and ages and ages trying to do your homework. If it's really hard, try and move on to the next question, and you can always come back to it later, or come to our homework club or ask your tutor. We're always available to help you. So please don't worry. We just want to give you the chance to practice some of these more difficult question types so that hopefully they'll gradually become a bit easier. So looking at this one here, again, we've color-coded the opposite faces. What skills can we still use that are the same? You can still look for alien shapes. You can still look for pairs that shouldn't be next to each other. So with this example, as always, the color-coded opposite faces can't be next to each other. And here are some of the examples for how that one could look. It's a bit more tricky to visualize than a regular cube. And then questions 12 to 15, another different variation on the cubes and nets style. Again, give them a go, see how you get on. Thinking about opposite faces, orientation of shapes, which way are they facing? Again, we've color coded here the opposite faces on this shape, on this net. So have a go, but do ask if you need to. Absolutely no problem whatsoever. Well done, everybody. Thank you for watching, and we will see you next time.